In 2005, Bruce Willis was looking for a win. He was 6 years removed from the massive success of The Sixth Sense, and his momentum had stalled out in a series of forgettable, mid-tier military and action projects. He needed a gritty, undeniable hit to remind audiences why he was the king of the action genre. So he threw his weight as both lead actor and producer behind a dark, R-rated thriller called Hostage. The critics tore it to shreds. It landed a dismal 35% on Rotten Tomatoes, with reviewers dismissing it as a cliched, grisly mess that assaulted logic and common sense. Specifically, they targeted the plot's central, highly improbable coincidence. 3 teenage delinquents decide to randomly rob a suburban mansion on the exact same day a ruthless crime syndicate is scheduled to retrieve a highly incriminating compact disc from that very same house. Read the synopsis out loud, and you can see why reviewers balked. Relying on an insane, one-in-a-million contrivance makes the entire film look like a convoluted disaster on paper. But amidst the wave of negative reviews, the most respected voice in the room broke from the pack. Roger Ebert awarded the film 3 out of 4 stars, explicitly defending its mechanics and praising its intensity. Ebert wasn't alone. Audiences gave the film a solid passing grade, and over the years it has quietly built a reputation as a rewatchable cult classic. Curious, how does a movie that was universally mocked for its ridiculous script actually work as a visceral thriller? Hostage succeeds specifically because it sacrifices logical perfection. It bypasses airtight plotting to deliver pure, unadulterated tension. To understand how it pulls this off, we have to look back at Ebert's review. He wrote, "I am not much concerned about such logical flaws because the main line of the movie is emotional. That emotion stems from the film's dual hostage setup." Bruce Willis plays a former LAPD hostage negotiator who is forced into handling the situation at the mansion because a mysterious syndicate has quietly kidnapped his own wife and daughter, demanding he retrieve their evidence in exchange for their lives. Yes, the dual kidnapping is incredibly improbable, but it traps the protagonist in a suffocating corner. He has to save the innocent kids trapped inside the mansion, but if he alerts the authorities to what's really happening, his own family will be executed. Viewers will forgive a massive coincidence early in a story if it reliably generates unbearable moral choices for the characters involved. The absurd premise earns its keep by delivering genuine stakes. A strong premise still needs execution, and that falls to French director Florence Emilio Siri and cinematographer Giovanni Fiore Coltellacci. They use sweeping, kinetic camera movements to glide through the mansion's air ducts and glass corridors, manufacturing physical momentum even when the characters are trapped inside a single building. They also blanket the entire production in a dark, gritty film noir aesthetic, bathing scenes in deep shadows that ground the chaotic script in a menacing reality. By applying high-tier visual craftsmanship and lyrical camera work to the production, they successfully disguise the mechanical flaws of a B-movie script. But a thriller relies on its antagonist. To make an absurd scenario feel dangerous, the threat has to feel completely real and entirely unhinged. Enter Ben Foster as Mars Krupcheck, the ultimate wildcard. Foster delivers a genuinely terrifying performance as an erratic, sadistic psychopath. He isn't interested in ransom money or a getaway vehicle, and he actively breaks the standard conventions of action movie villains by killing his own accomplices. This chart shows how Mars derails the narrative structure. What begins as a steady police procedure suddenly spikes. Mars forces a genre shift, turning the third act into a claustrophobic horror film, where the hostages are hunted through the walls of their own home. Injecting a truly unpredictable element into a familiar setup is the single most effective way to sustain raw, cinematic tension. The film reaches its climax as the sprawling mansion literally burns to the ground, serving as the ultimate culmination of Siri's sensory overload strategy. Hostage is far from a logically perfect film. It is full of holes, but it flawlessly executes its goal of overwhelming the viewer with dread, action, and impossible choices. This highlights a glaring limitation in modern film criticism, specifically the binary black and white nature of the Rotten Tomatoes aggregate system. A movie does not require a flawless, airtight script to be a great viewing experience. When a film delivers an undeniable emotional punch, technical plausibility takes a back seat to adrenaline. A 35% aggregate score can easily hide an absolute masterpiece of adrenaline. If you missed Hostage 2 decades ago, it is